What has actually happened? This show used to be so good. First two seasons, amazing, fantastic. I loved them to death. Third season, also great. I still loved it. I was so excited to watch this. Umbrella Academy will always have a special place in my heart. Both the TV show and the comic book. So I watched season 4 and it was bad. My disappointment was immeasurable, and let me explain why. Starting from the story, none of this makes any sense, but in different ways. All of the new big picture storylines seem to be completely pulled out of thin air. Like, none of this, except maybe one revelation, feels built up by anything. A lot of things that happen in season 4, we as the viewers are supposed to take just at face value. They just happen, and we are not supposed to question almost any of it, and it always feels very chaotic. Some of them happen right in front of our eyes, and some of them are just there now. The first episode does a horrid job of introducing us to the new state of the family, because they try to cram so much information in it, and some of it is just said once in passing. We're not supposed to question it, and it always feels really chaotic, because when we start questioning anything that is happening, anything that gets introduced, you start realizing that most of it makes zero logical sense. There was no build-up. There wasn't anything. It contradicts a lot of things that were either said or done in previous seasons. Some of them happen right in front of our eyes, and some of them are just there now. Like, they get no introduction. This is just the new state that we are in. This is a thing now. You can either live with it or get out. And on the other hand, even the stuff that was built up by the previous things that happened doesn't really make sense from a storytelling perspective. A lot of it feels random, incomprehensive, even damaging to the full story and the characters. This season just confused the holy bejesus out of me, both in a what the hell is happening and a why would they write it like this type of way. But you know what? I think even with such a horrific story, it was still salvageable. All they had to do is to focus on the family interactions, the characters themselves, and I would still be entertained in a lower tier MCU movie from the golden era type of way. Like, the story is us, but the characters are so strong, and they have so much chemistry that you are so entertained by the characters themselves, you forget that the story is basically bullshit. The story was a nonsensical mess, but the family interactions were still fantastic, as they were in the previous seasons, of course. The actors still have an amazing chemistry. The characters still bounced off great off each other. Everybody has so much charisma. It's not even funny. But see, here is a problem. The family is together for like, I don't know, 2.5 episodes if you put this all together. And then they did what you should never do when your biggest upside is the character interactions. Separate them, which is what they did. Klaus is on an island of his own, same with Victor, most of the time, same with Allison. Five and Lila are together, but they are completely separated from the rest of the family for most of the time. Same with Luther and Diego, and Ben is just not even on an island, he's on a completely different planet. I don't know why would they do that, but surprise, surprise, it was a horrible idea. Also, why did they fall in love with a concept of making one of the main characters so obnoxious that they are basically unwatchable? Allison was the unfortunate victim of this phenomenon in season 3, and they managed to bring her back to a pretty good taste. Like, I enjoyed Allison in season 4, but unfortunately, they found an even worse replacement for that place in the role of Ben. Holy fuck, I wanted to strangle this man through my screen. He was completely unwatchable for this entire season, and for some ungodly reason, it was by design. I think they wanted to make Ben unwatchable. Fuck if I know why, but that was the idea. Holy god. This idea was the worst part of season 3 by far, and I don't have a single goddamn clue to why would they bring it back. It was horrid. The individual character storylines are unfortunately not much better. Except Victor, whose storyline is pretty good, pretty nice. My main man Victor still goes crazy. But the rest are absolutely horrid, and oh my god, there is a love triangle. There is a love triangle, and it's one of the worst things to ever happen on television. Why? You are going to Another problem with season 4 were the villains, but I have to be honest, they were also one of the biggest highlights. Jean were absolutely fantastic to watch. They were super entertaining, they fit the overall atmosphere of the show perfectly, they were very weird, but in the way that only Umbrella Academy can do weird. But, and that is a big but, they and their group never felt like an actual threat for even a microsecond. They were cool, but they were unfortunately never portrayed as actual big time factors in this whole story, despite the fact they have a lot of screen time. I know that they weren't supposed to be the main threat, but they were kinda meaningless in the big picture, which is unfortunate because I really liked them. I really enjoyed watching them. The ending itself was also a really bad idea, but in a very unique way. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen an ending to a TV show, movie, or anything at this point that is supposed to make you regret that this entire story have ever happened? And I don't mean like this ending was so bad that I regret watching this show type of way, but one that intentionally tries to tell you that if none of this ever happened, it would have been better. And not where the story is really heavy and something tragic happens and there is some heavy shit or some bad ending horror style stuff. In a simple, pretty unserious story. No? Well, I don't think I did either. Until this show. Like, seriously, they are trying to tell you at the end that all of the good times and all of the fun you had with the previous seasons, well, technically even with this season, but you know, shouldn't have ever happened. And you should regret the fact that it ever did. I mean, what the fuck? This is such a stupid, and to be completely honest, anticlimactic way to end this story that it's not even funny. Who thought this was a good idea? As much as I respect in a weird way the uniqueness of this ending, because I have never seen anything like this, it was a pretty bad idea, especially if they ever wanted to do anything else with this franchise ever again. You know, the show is over. But if they ever wanted to do, I don't know, a spin-off, reboot, maybe a new comic book series, anything, they want you to think that it's a bad idea. A weird ending, but not the type of weird that this show is famous for, the one that you are starting to question everything. One last thing I want to mention is this season was rushed to oblivion. Season 4 was shortened from the usual 10 episodes to 6 because of the budget, and it really feels like it. Everything feels underdeveloped, rushed, as I said previously. Everything was happening at the same time. A lot of things were really underexplained, and it was unfortunately really noticeable throughout this season. I get that Netflix wants to make money, but let's be honest for a second. Netflix doesn't do anything but lose money for projects that have no right of turning profit. They've spent $160 million on Rebel Moon last year, for fuck's sake, and we all knew those movies were going to bomb crazy style, and they had to cut costs on what was a show with great viewership, great engagement, and that was really beloved by a lot of people. My guess is that was the main reason that this season was so poor, because a lot of the things that happened probably could have been much better with a lot more time, almost double the time. You can't make a 10-hour long story into a 6-hour long story and make it work. That's just physically impossible. And no wonder they failed, because they were put in front of a impossible task. Netflix just cannot stop making an idiotic decision after an idiotic decision, and it costed them what could have been probably a show that was rewatched basically till the end of time. Like now, from my perspective, if I was to ever rewatch the show, I would definitely skip season 4, but I don't know. Most people may find this ending so atrocious that they will never come back to this show, which is bad for them, obviously. Netflix, why do you have to be so dumb? Well, anyway, yeah, this season was bad. Nothing except the short but sweet family interactions, Jin and Jin being super entertaining, and Victor obviously being the highlight, because Victor is always the highlight. Nothing really worked this season, but I guess when you have to crunch 10 hours worth of story into 6, I guess they tried their best. I will miss this show, but unfortunately, I will not miss this season. I would probably give it like a 3. But hey, if you disagree with me, if you actually like this season, or if you want to like share your favorite memories from this show, or just say how much they fucked up your favorite character, because I mean I am a Victor stan, but basically everybody else except maybe, and that's a big maybe, all of you Diego fans were absolutely screwed over by this season. I would be more than happy to discuss all of this in the comments.